Thank you. Thank you very much. I guess I can start out by saying, or in the words of Elizabeth Taylor, she said to her seventh husband, I'm not going to keep you long. All right. I really believe, I've heard the speakers this morning, and I'd like to share with you some things that we have going on in Michigan, the Education Achievement Authority. Been there since November. And I have certainly traveled the country, and I've worked in a number of school districts, rural, urban, and in some cases suburban. And it is my firm conviction that when we talk about the achievement gap, that in this country what we really have is a systems gap. We continue to maintain a structure of public schooling in the United States that we should have long since abandoned. And now we have gotten to the point where we struggle, if you will, for answers. The blame game, we're blaming each other. The federal government blames the states. The states blame the federal government. The union blames management. Management blames the union. The high school teachers blame the middle school teachers. The middle school teachers blame the elementary school teachers. The elementary school teachers then blame the parents. And when the mother comes in for a conference so that we can explain what the problems are, the mother says, well, it's the father's side of the family. I think we're going to have to see, folk, the elephant in the room and understand that it is the system that is the problem. And until we change the system as to how we deliver educational programs and services for young people, our problems will likely not be resolved, and will probably not get to where young people need to be in terms of making sure that all of them are graduating college, career, and workforce ready. And so in Michigan, our intent, and we're clear about it, is to disrupt traditional public schooling and provide a prototype for 21st century teaching and learning. What are our challenges? In less than 10 years in Detroit, we have gone from 125,000 students down to 66,000. We have a huge debt problem. Right now, the Detroit Public Schools suffers from a $350 million debt problem. And then when you look at measurable student academic achievement, and then you consider the outcome performance of students based on the 2009 NAEP test, and look at with one being the best and then the bottom being the lowest, and look at Detroit, and you see where we fall. 94% of the children not scoring at the proficient level. But then when you look at the other school districts that was on that list, they're not doing very well either. Now, how does this then equate or then to our problem in Detroit? Fewer than 25% of the children are proficient in reading in the elementary schools, and less than 5% are proficient in the area of mathematics. In our high schools, fewer than 10% are proficient in reading, and there's no percentage there for math because 0% of the children are proficient in mathematics. 0%. We're responsible in the Education Achievement Authority of taking the persistently lowest achieving schools across the state, of which there are 100. 38 of them are located in the city of Detroit. We'll start this school year with 15 of the 38. Of the 38 schools, we didn't have a single child in the high schools that we're taking to graduate college, career, and workforce ready. And then when you consider the problems of blight, and this would hold true for some of your neighborhoods as well. In the city of Detroit, there is 40 square miles of blight, empty and vacated neighborhoods. 40 square miles. And in a lot of instances, children will have to walk through neighborhoods trying to get to school that's blighted. And you can imagine the kind of problems that they have to confront when walking from home to school and then from school back home. So then, the question is, can there be any good thing that comes out of Detroit? I'd like to just share a little story with you very quickly about Philip and Nathaniel. Now, this is not a biblical lesson that I'm trying to share or teach, but I want to use Philip and Nathaniel, if I might, as an example. Philip went to Nathaniel to tell him about the good that had been found in Nazareth. Now, Nazareth was one of the most disregarded cities of the time, pretty much like Detroit, Kansas City, the inner city of Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston, Phoenix, Compton, LA Unified. And so when Philip shared the good news with Nathaniel, and it wasn't about the good news as much as it was about the place. And so Nathaniel quipped in a very, very sarcastic tone, what good thing can possibly come out of Nazareth? And I would venture to say that if the conversation had been about public schooling at the time, Nathaniel's response would have been the same. What good thing can come out of the urban core? Is it possible in a city like Detroit for us to change the paradigm, disrupt traditional public schooling, and provide young people with an internationally competitive school calendar? In the state of Michigan, Michigan doesn't require young people to attend school based on days. It requires hours. Requires 1,098 hours of instruction per child each year. If you would then convert the 1,098 hours of instructional time into days, Michigan, based on a 6.5-hour school day, Michigan requires students to attend school for 170 days. And you can see by the chart that the average number of school days in the United States is 180. And then if you would do a comparative analysis, as with 1 being the best and 50 being the worst of the states, how Michigan compares, Michigan would rank number 50, the lowest in the country. And so, is it possible in a city like Detroit, in the urban core, for us to go to an 8-hour school day for young people? 8 hours. And not only go to 8 hours, change from 170 days and require young people to attend school each and every year for 210 days. 210 days, 8 hours a day. In the selection process for teachers and principals, we put them through probably one of the most rigorous processes in terms of interviewing and making application than they had ever been through probably in their careers. Teachers had to take online courses. They had to submit formal applications. They had to sit with their principals for not a 15 or 20-minute interview. They had to do teacher demonstrations and then sit and interview for hours on end, and the principals had to do the same thing. They had to demonstrate that they could use data to make informed decisions about their instructional practice. Is it possible in a city like Detroit for the Education Achievement Authority to be recognized by Gates as a new innovation site based on our model of student-centered public education? changing the paradigm of how we deliver instructional programs and services for the students enrolled in our district. Is it possible in a city of Detroit to say to young people and to parents, we're eliminating grade levels. There's no kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. And that students will progress not through grades but through instructional levels whenever they demonstrate that they have mastered the requisite skill that they need to have to be successful at the next level of their schooling. This then drives the nail in the coffin of social promotion. You go to school for 9 months, you get promoted to the next grade. You go to school for 9 months, you get promoted to the next grade. Children in the urban core quickly understand that they can go to school for 9 months, miss half those days, and still get promoted to the next grade. And then by the time they get to be seniors, we allow them to don their caps, put on their gowns, walk down the aisle to the tune of pomp and circumstance and God of our fathers, walk across the stage, and we place in their hands a diploma that we all know is not worth the paper that it's written on. In a city of Detroit, can any good thing come out of public schooling? Is it possible in the city of Detroit or in a school district located in the urban core to eliminate credit recovery? The current system says you go to school for 9 months, you're going to get promoted to the next grade, even if you miss half the days, and if for some reason you failed a course, you can go to summer school. And we all know what happens in summer school. We know how summer school is structured. They pay their money, and they're going to get their credit regardless. Is it possible in a city like Detroit for us to have a sustainable and scalable model, eliminating the top-down bureaucratic approach where you have all of these PhDs and EDDs and people at the central office who are providing supposedly support to the local schools, but at the end of the year have measurable student performance outcomes remain basically the same? So is it possible to change that and to have for a system of 11,734 young people a central office that's made up of 13 people instead of 200 people, and then have the dollars saved from that to be channeled back to the classroom for teaching and learning, which is where those dollars should be spent in the first place? Is it possible in a city of Detroit to have a teaching and learning platform that's 365 days per year, 24 hours a day, 7 days per week, a rich library of resources available to both teachers and students, real-time access to data, and a professional development program that is comprehensive in scope and provides those activities for teachers when, where, and how they need it? We have come to believe in Detroit that the hottest fires yields the hardest steel. And for us to be successful in the changing of this paradigm, we're going to have passion and believe in our work and believe in what it is we're trying to do for young people. We're going to have pride in our work. And while many people on the outside of Detroit who looks in have negative things to say, we're going to have to be or stand in absolute defense of the work and our ability and will to change a system that should have been long since changed years ago. We're going to have the intestinal fortitude, and we have that. Despite what comes, be steadfast and change the system, change the structure. 210 days for kids, 220 days for teachers, eliminating grade levels, allow children to progress through grades based on when they master skills rather than allow them to progress through a system based on the amount of time that they sat in the chair. And we're going to have tenacity, and we have that too. And we're going to have to be able or willing when people say, well, how long do we fight? Well, we fight until hell freezes over. And if hell freezes over, then we skate across on the ice. Our young people are depending on us. And for many of them, we represent their last chance, and in many cases, their only chance of ever having an opportunity to sit in a room like this.
I got a question for you. What does this city know about luxury? Huh? What does a town that's been to hell and back know about the finer things in life? Well, I'll tell you. More than most. You see, it's the hottest fires that make the hardest steel. Add hard work and conviction, and the know-how that runs generations deep in every last one of us. That's who we are. That's our story. Now, it's probably not the one you've been reading in papers. The one being written by folks who've never even been here and don't know what we're capable of. Because when it comes to luxury, it's as much about where it's from as who it's for. Now, we're from America, but this isn't New York City, or the Windy City, or Sin City, and we're certainly no one's Emerald City.
This is the Motor City, and this is what we do.
I think the most difficult job in the world is the job that we all have. Educating our nation's children to levels where they can somehow acquire the knowledge, skill, and that would somehow allow them to transform the tiny sparks of possibilities within them into open flames of achievement. I do think it's very, very possible for us to change a system so that children are graduating and will be successfully off to college, either successfully off to the workplace. We don't have to have systems where children, based on our failure, those adults who work in the system and who do not have the courage to change it, to provide or to continue to provide children with a system that, for the most part, allows them to leave high school or drop out, not even graduating, and then move from there and off to prison. We're the richest nation on this planet. And there's no reason why we can't provide our young people through a changing of the system, being courageous enough and having that intestinal fortitude to move this country from a system that we all know we should have long since abandoned. We can do that. And rather than stand here and try to convince you of the good and wonderful things that are certainly going on in Detroit, the powerful innovations that my staff have put into place to push the envelope and to change the system for the betterment of kids, rather than stand here and try to convince you that it can happen and it's working, even in Detroit, in the early days of my administration. Because I know that many of you hearing from the media or having watched Dan Rather's special are also asking the same question, that Nathaniel asked Philip. And so rather than respond in ways that would cause us to engage in a philosophical debate about the goodness of the people in Detroit and our ability to get the job done, I'm going to respond to you the same way Philip responded to Nathaniel, by saying very simply, come and see. Thank you so much.